Okie dokie. Hello and welcome. Welcome to our class on yoga for the low back. This class is great for all levels, beginners and those who are used to doing yoga. And Inward Office, our goal is to give you small movement habits you can integrate into your day that improve your work life overall. So many of us who are sitting at work all day long, we're ending up with back hair because our legs get really tight. Our hips get tight, our quads, our hamstrings. So we're going to also work on, in addition to stretching and strengthening those areas, we're also going to work on rest. And so back pain can come from inflammation, from simply stress. And so what we're going to do is do a couple of breathing exercises and techniques that will hopefully decrease the feeling of discomfort in your back. So we recommend having a mat. You can see I've got a mat laid out here. You can use a blanket, you can use a towel. There's not really a requirement on a very specific kind of mat. And of course, being a yoga instructor, I love sticky mats. When we do things where we separate the feet, the stickiness gives us this extra ability to keep the legs where they are. So our first position here is going to be laying down on the ground. And we're going to have the knees bent, the back flat on the floor. And here I'll have you bring your hands to your belly and just breathe. Let the eyes close. And if eyes closed isn't comfortable, just stare at a neutral point. As you're breathing, feel the belly get big and the fingers separate. And as you exhale, feel the fingers come together. The belly drops. If the mind is wandering, count the breaths. Simply say inhale, 1, exhale, 1. Inhale, 2, exhale, 2. And ask yourself how you're feeling today. How is the body and the mind today? And then we're slowly going to bring one knee in towards the chest, pulling it in gently. If you feel comfortable, extending the opposite leg on the ground. And then bring both knees into the chest, still breathing deeply. See if you can really draw those knees in tightly, feeling the lengthening of the lower back, even the lower back touching the ground. And you may choose here to rock side to side, just to gently massage the back. And then we'll take the other leg, either foot to the floor or extended, whatever you did on the opposite side. Deep breaths. Noticing if as you exhale, you can draw the leg in just a little closer. And then we'll bring both knees into the chest. And at first, just keeping the knees together. We don't want to cross the ankles. We're just going to keep the knees together, drawing them in and feeling when you exhale that the knees come in even closer. When you inhale and the belly gets big, the knees press away. Doing that back and forth a few times. Inhale, knees press away. Exhale, they draw in. And then opening up the knees a little wider here. Let's draw the knees in, again, tight to the body. And even rock back and forth. And then we'll extend the legs straight up. This is another great one for the back. If you were to place these legs right against the wall, legs up the wall, you could spend 5 to 10 minutes here. And then let's take the legs down just a little further. So here we're waking up the abs. The abs are excellent support for the back muscles. They take the load off the back. Lowering down, and more. And back up. Keep trying to press the low back to the ground. This is a good and challenging one for me. After having 5 kids, my abs are a little weak, to say the least. So again, lowering down, taking a breath here. Again. More. And then bring them both in. Hug them in. Rock side to side. And then here we'll take a twist. So bringing the knees in a little closer, you can drop the knees to the right side and extend the left hand out in line with the shoulder. If you have a block or a blanket, if it feels comfortable, you can put it between the legs or under the lower leg. You want to stay in a pain-free range of motion. So if any of the twisting creates a little bit of a pinching, just don't do it. Let off the pose a little bit. And then knees back to center. I'm not doing a full twist here because I did just eat. So I'm just going to twist a little bit to the side. You can drop your legs all the way to the ground and you can fully extend your arm. So a couple of the contraindications for twisting. One is if you just ate. Another is if you're pregnant. Pregnancy is a different kind of twist. We don't do any abdominal twisting. And if you have any imbalance in your abs, it's worth asking our team or your doctor what kind of movements are good. So go ahead and pull the knees into the chest here, nice and tight, and take some deep breaths. And even feel that pressure of belly to knees as you hold on tight here. And then we'll gently rock up and rock back. If you feel comfortable doing a few rocks. All right, we'll come up to sitting. All right. All right, coming up to sitting here. You can choose to sit cross-legged. If cross-legged is not comfortable for you, feel free to sit in a chair or even have a bolster or a blanket under your bottom. So notice the way that you naturally cross your legs and switch, which side is natural. It's going to feel awkward, of course, but here we're into balancing, right? Left and side of the body. the right and left side of the body. And we want to challenge our body's dominant habits. So go ahead and find your right hand. We'll bring the right hand down to the ground and it's in line with the hip. We'll extend the left arm straight up. And if you have any issue, limitation with the shoulder, you may want to put a little bend in the arm. And then slide the hand out and reach the left over the top of the head. We're going to do this gently and we're going to keep both the bottom cheeks on the ground. And here you want to think about length through the sides of the body. And then inhaling back up. Hopefully you're breathing through that whole time. We'll take the left hand down to the ground, the right hand up. Sliding left hand out, reaching overhead. And if you do hear any of the background noise, I do apologize. It is summertime in my household and my children are home. So I hope that your summer is going beautifully. And if you do have your children or family members at home, they can join in this practice with you. All right, so if that felt particularly good, some of us feel this increased breathing capacity. So actually, let's do this. Let's take a couple deep breaths here. And we're going to do a side bend again. I want you to really notice the quality of your breathing here. And then we'll take the right hand down to the ground. We'll lift the left hand up. And once again, we're going to work on length. So the sides of the body get long. It's not about reaching further. It's about length through the sides. And when you feel this hip is about to pop up, stop there and breathe. Relax into the side of the body. Feel the breath go into that left side ribs as you bend to the right. And then inhaling, come back to center, opposite side. So that right hand comes up, the palm faces the midline of the body. The left hand slides out. We're long through both sides of the body, and then we're breathing into the right side of the chest that has the extended arm. And then inhaling, come all the way back up and notice the quality of the breath now. All right, and then we're going to do a butterfly pose, or in India, they call this cobbler's pose, right? India is where yoga originated, and Indian cobblers would put the shoe right in between their feet and work on the shoe, and that's why it was called cobbler pose. This is one where at first you want to assess your knees, like what's going on with your knees? This knee is high, this one's pretty high. This left side for me is one with more limitations. So I may choose just to sit up straight here. And what that might look like is from the back, feet are together, and I'm pulling my chest forward and drawing my shoulders back slightly. And perhaps this is enough for my practice today. If I want to go further, what I want to be sure of is that my knees aren't coming up too high. If they are, I want to sit up on something, like a bolster, a blanket. Place the fingertips around the toes. If you choose to go forward, simply begin to hinge at the hips. So where you may be feeling this sensation is in the hips, the low back, and the inner thighs. But I do recommend if your knees are pretty high off the ground to sit up on something, it will help. Or even take support under the knees while sitting up on a pillow or bolster. This is a pose you can do for quite some time. Outside of the context of this class, you may choose to do this pose for up to 5 minutes. And then find an edge here, a comfortable edge, and hold it. Notice all of the joints. What's going on with the ankles, the knees, and the hips. And then slowly come all the way back up. For our next pose, you're going to open up the legs wide. And this one is an important one to choose very wisely how far you want to go. So the first adjustment here is we want to be sitting on both of the butt cheeks. You may want to pull out the flesh to really feel the connection to the ground. We're going to separate the legs as far as we feel comfortable. Now, to be honest, the wider that I go, the more difficult it is for me to bend forward. If I bring the legs in a little closer, I'll be able to have a little bit more mobility. So you can make the decision here. It's not necessarily about opening the legs as wide as possible. You could have them a little closer in, okay? And then find your support here. You may want to sit up on a bolster blanket again. And if you do, watch out about overextending the knees. You may want to put a little bit of support under the knees if you're sitting up higher. If you're in a chair, this is one you can do in the chair. Simply sit in the chair and open the knees as wide as possible. Feet are on the ground. All right, and so now taking the hands between the legs, you can choose to walk the hands forward. And our goal here is to hinge at the hip joint. So we do have the natural inclination to round the back. But for this pose in particular, what we want to do is hinge and keep the back straight. Okay. And then we get to a comfortable edge and we just hang out there. So it might feel like, oh, it'll be too tight to go a little forward more. It may feel like the body is showing resistance. And in this pose, you could play around with some affirmations. For instance, I am safe. I am at ease. I love my body. Thank you, body, for traveling through this life with me. And it is natural that as you go forward in this forward bend, the back is going to round. We're not going to be able to keep all the natural curves in the spine as we go forward. But as far as you can, really tune into, is the hip joint moving primarily? Is the back moving minimally? And then slowly, hands to the ground, push yourself back up. This is another pose that you can do for 5-10 minutes. You could sit and read a book, put a bolster between the legs and rest your head down. All right, and we'll do one more seated forward fold here. With the legs straight in front of you, fully extended, hands by the hips. Spread those fingers and point the fingers in the direction of the feet. Sit up straight. So you can use that pressure through the hands to elevate the chest and create even a straighter spine. And now we're going to do a very simple hinging at the hips. So you may find that you can't go very far, and this is fine. We're just playing around with what can our body do. So begin to walk the hands forward and see, do you feel most movement from your hips? Now in this pose, I'm bending my knees slightly, and that's perfectly fine. It's letting off a little of the tension here and the tendency for my back to round. Just go a little ways till you feel that resistance. And then come back up. And hopefully you're breathing through all of that. So begin to notice your breath here. One of those things that yoga can teach us is how to bring a pause into our day. How do we stop between activities and simply pause and take inventory? Throughout a yoga practice, it is essential to take that small inventory to see how your own body is doing. All right, we'll come onto all fours. As you come onto all fours here, really spread out those fingers, try to bring them under the shoulders and knees under the hips. We're gonna do some cat-cow here. So inhale, let the belly drop, the chin rise, the seat rise. Exhale, tuck the tail, round the back, tuck the chin. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And try to let the breath and the movement be continuous. Continue breathing and moving. All right, and then come on to all fours. We're going to take the right foot forward. Line up the fingers and the toes. Slide the left knee back. Here we're in a lunge, and it's going to look a little different for everybody. For myself, because of my proportions, having one block or something under both of my hands works really well. Take 3 more deep breaths here. Notice how the pose changes. And then we're going to shift the weight back, bringing the weight onto this back leg and moving the right heel forward. So the alignment we want here is hips over this back knee, and then the toes pulling back with the heel on the ground. And you can bring blocks on either side. This is very helpful. Or you can see here, I'm holding onto the wall and slowly hinge at the hip to come down into this version of runner's stretch. So this isn't really a yoga pose, but you see many yoga studios, teachers integrating this. We're going to pull the toes back, and you can even play around with pointing the toes and flexing back and circling the foot and feeling how that changes the sensation in the hips. Make sure you're stable when you do that kind of exploration too. See if you can go just a little bit further. And then shift back into your lunge. And from here, we'll tuck in the toes and straighten this back leg. And then see if you can, with this back leg straight, the toes point in the same direction. Come up onto the right knee, lifting the chest, and see if you can take the hands overhead. And then hands back to knee, knee down, and we'll come back to all fours. So on all fours here, simply check in with the back. How is it feeling? Any changes left to right? Notice breathing. And then we'll bring the left foot forward into our lunge position once again. Taking a look forward. If you need the blocks, using the blocks. Keeping this alignment of knee over ankle and then sliding the back knee back. Remember, you can always put support or extra padding under that back knee. And then we'll shift the weight back, coming into this runner's pose variation. Again, aligning here so that the hip is over the knee and the left heel and toes are drawing back. And then folding forward. Breathing deeply. You can point the toes here, flex them back. Circle the foot around, only if you're feeling stable. All right, and then coming back into our lunge and lifting up the back knee if that feels comfortable. These are options. You can always keep the back knee down and move into our next stage of this pose. Then bringing both hands up onto the left knee or whichever side you're on. I'm on my left side, and we're going to really reach back through that right heel. You can see all that tightness I'm experiencing from sitting for long hours. So that hip flexor, that quad, my knee wants to bend more than straighten. Okay. And then arms up. And then I'll have us here, bring the hands down and see if you can inch up that back foot and come all the way into a forward fold. So feet are about hip distance apart and we're dropping the head down. Put a bend in the knees, come up to chair position. So here in chair position, what we're actually doing is feet are hip distance. We're dropping the hips, bending the knees, and extending the arms forward. If this is uncomfortable for your shoulders, you can bring them directly in front of you. And then forward fold, hands to the hips. Bending into the knees once again, hips drop back, come up to chair pose. And then hands to hips, bend forward. Bend at the knees, come up to a mini squat here. Okay, so we're squatting. We're going to separate the feet a little wider. And here's where you're going to make a choice. If you want to do a yoga squat, we'll do it without support. If you want to do a squat with support, I recommend getting some blocks to sit on, or even you can do this with a chair. We're going to drop all the way down. Hands come together in prayer pose. And we want to ideally have both of our heels down. For me, it's been a long process of trying to get both the heels down. So my heels kind of stay up a little bit. Remember that all of our bodies are different, and yoga is meant to fit your body shape. So that might mean I've got less flexible heels. Maybe I've got an obstruction in my hips in certain areas that are different from what another person experiences. And so it's important in this case to listen to your own wisdom. Does this feel comfortable for you? If not, do it against a wall. The way to do it against the wall is just lean your back. Let's see if I can do it here. This wall will be to slide down. Knees are separated. And we're still doing the squat, but we've got support from the bottom. All right, and then place the hands down, come up to standing. All right, just walk around a little bit. I want you to take a little inventory. How is this feeling? All right, we're gonna do one more standing pose and then we're gonna do relaxation. So the next standing pose we're gonna do is placing the weight on the left foot. Find a point to focus on in front of you and bring the right knee into the chest. And then hold on to the leg. If you want to go to the next step, extend the leg out. And if you want, take the hands away. Bend the knee, bring it into the chest, hold and breathe. And bring it back down. All right, we'll do the other side. Exhaling, knee into chest. Still breathing. Hold on and extend the foot if that feels comfortable. Let go of the leg if you're feeling like you want that challenge. Knee down, back into chest. And then back down. All right, walk it out, move it around. Let's do some hip circles. So hands to the hips, feet about hips distance apart. Bend the knees. We're going to push the hips forward to the side, back, and side. So the weight is shifting through the feet. Knees are bent. The hips are the center of the action. And the other way. Noticing what sensations you're experiencing. All right, and then coming back to center. Or like me, exploring even a little bit more. All right. Going to end our practice today. I'm going to come down to the floor. We'll do a seated twist. And then lay down for Shavasana, our final relaxation. So take the right hand onto the left knee, take the left hand behind you. And turn to look over the left shoulder. This shouldn't be difficult. This should be full of ease. And you don't want to push your body into this pose. And then the other direction, left hand to the right knee, right hand behind you, sitting up straight, turning to look over the shoulder. And then come back to center. We're going to lay down for Shavasana. So laying down flat on your back, find the support that you need on the ground. This might be a bolster under the knees, blankets under the knees, a blanket over the body, a little something under the head. Find your perfect pose for relaxation. And this is an essential part of our practice. I recently read that there was a study done on how exercise helps us regulate our stress. And one of the ways that it does this is when we put ourselves under pressure in exercise, whether that's running, lifting weights, or doing some yoga, we put ourselves into this stress state. And then when we go to relax, we put ourselves into a rest and digest state. And that undulation, that change from one state to the other, is what helps us when it comes to day-to-day stress. We can turn off the stress response more easily in our day-to-day. And that's really a lot of how yoga helps us with our stress. So if you felt any iota of stress or strain or pain or resistance during your practice today, we're going to let it go during Shavasana. And that's why this part of the practice, the relaxation, is so important. It's so important. Early in my yoga days, I would do long practices, 2+ hours, and sometimes I would skip Shavasana. And I found that I was all wacky afterwards. I was like upset, or I would start fights, or my energy and my calm was just, it was off. And so what I found was that Shavasana helped me regulate. It helped me self-regulate after a difficult asana practice. And so asana means poses, the yoga poses. So go ahead and lay down if you haven't already. If you're all set under all of your blankets or with your bolster, let the eyes close gently. If it's hard to close the eyes, squeeze them, squeeze them, squeeze them, and then relax. Squeeze them, relax. Let's do that for the whole face. Let's tighten all the muscles of the face as though they're all being pulled to the center of the face. And then relax. Tighten and squeeze all the muscles of the face. Clench the jaw. And release. Let the jaw slacken. The corners of the eyes slacken. Let the shoulders get heavy on the ground with the palms turned open. The arms are separated from the body. Unless you need that grounding support, if you want to bring both hands onto the belly, that can connect us more deeply with our breath. And then breathe. As you exhale next, let the back release towards the ground. Again, exhaling next, the back releases towards the ground. Okay, and then the next exhalation, the hips release towards the ground. the hips get heavy. And with the next few breaths, the legs get heavy. And then notice the breath all the way from the start of the inhalation to the end. The start of the exhalation to the end. And if you need an even stronger anchor, using a mantra, a phrase that you can repeat to set an intention for Shavasana, or even set an intention for your day. I am peaceful. I am joyful. My body relaxes effortlessly. Stay with the practice. Keep the mind here. And then we'll begin to bring attention back into the body, feeling the body against the ground. Beginning to move the fingers and the toes. And stretching the body out. Stretch, stretch. Bending the knees, feet to the ground, and then rolling onto your right side. And slowly pressing up to sit again. And we'll just give ourselves a big stretch as we get into the seated position. Slowly opening the eyes. Trying not to rush off to the next thing, but taking this kind of focus and centeredness with you for the rest of your day. I wish you a wonderful day, and thank you for practicing with me. I'm Marla from Inward Office, and may your day be beautiful and bright. Namaste. Thank you for joining me.